Hello and welcome to History Undecided. Today we're going to discuss which of the Successor kingdoms captured Alexander the Great's legacy the best.
Arguably, it was the Seleucid Empire.
Arguably would be the right way to put that, but yeah, go on then. Why was it the Seleucids?
Military achievements, one thing.
Yeah, did some, yeah.
The spreading of Greek culture from the Indian borders through to the Middle East, through to Armenia.
Yep.
And easily bringing Greek political chaos across the country, as per Greek tradition.
I mean, it's hard to fault you on that last point. Is that a good thing, though?
I think it spreads the idea of political disagreement.
Yeah.
Democracy, well, not democracy, but...
Probably not really democracy at all, but yeah.
Political factionalisation.
Yeah.
Which you never really had under the previous kingdoms.
Under the Persians.
Under the Persians, or the Assyrians.
Yeah.
Or the Medians. It was a very harmonised empire, whereas the Seleucids, in their weakness to control their own empire, brought about fragmented political entities which carried forth the legacy of Alexander the Great's conquest in carrying on the Greek colonisation.
I get where you're coming from. I do kind of object to calling the Persian Empire harmonious, but yeah, I get what you're going for. Stable. Let's go with stable.
A lot more stable and harmonious than the Seleucid Empire.
I will not disagree with you there, but surely, if you're looking for the successor to Alexander, who did the symbolic legwork on that? It was the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt.
No.
What was the first thing Ptolemy, one of Alexander's friends and generals, did after Alexander died?
Stole his
body.
His decaying body.
It'd been embalmed. It wasn't really decaying.
Taken to his homeland of
Which
Macedonia.
is where he didn't want to be buried.
But it was his homeland and it was necessary.
Didn't want to be buried there.
During a period of chaos, a period of succession chaos, where if Alexander's body went to Macedonia and the royal family was able to unite in Macedonia, but no, Ptolemy just snatched it away.
Ptolemy was a realist. He knew that you couldn't keep the whole empire together. No one could hold that whole empire together. The best chance you've got is an unborn child.
Well, I think Seleucus did an excellent job of building the empire back through his military achievements, conquering from Indian border to Thrace.
Did he hold on to that?
No, but it's a shame that he died too young.
Did his successors even come close to that?
Antiochus III came very close.
Very close, and what happened?
He got defeated by the Romans.
He got
190 BC.
Yes, he did. But symbolically, okay, I get it. The military side of things you've got down, but symbolically, you've got the body. You've put that in Alexandria, a city that Alexander himself basically founded.
Yes, yeah.
You've put that...
There's a lot of cities since Alexander.
Yeah, but this is let's face it, this is the most famous.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And why was that? Because the Ptolemaic dynasty made it the centre of Hellenic culture in the Mediterranean world. They first built quite a nice tomb for Alexander, which just happened to be in the royal palace grounds, which, cementing your authority as the successor. You're being buried next to the big one.
Which you stole.
Yeah, which you stole, which you borrowed to restore legitimacy to your new province. The first ones to put Alexander's face on the money, which was very good in the civil war that ensued the stealing of Alexander's body, because the soldiers went, well, who are we fighting for? The person who doesn't have Alexander's body, or the person who does and has his face on the money? They're going to fight for the Egyptians, and they did. Because, if I remember rightly, Seleucus didn't manage to cross the Nile, did he?
No, he didn't, but at least he managed to expand his empire a bit, unlike Ptolemy, who just sat in Egypt like
the most wealthy and fertile province in the empire.
But that's all he could hold, because he was so militarily inept. He wasn't able to...
He held the Nile 3 times.
Yeah, but
I mean, to be fair,
Perdiccas... It's easy to hold the Nile. That's why he chose.
Yeah, they were on the other side of a river and were held off. It's kind of easy to hold the Nile.
It is. The Romans were scared of taking Egypt, so...
They did manage it, though.
Yes, eventually, after the Ptolemy family decided to Cleopatra ending it all.
I mean, Cleopatra made the mistake of going with Mark Antony, which is just a mistake in general.
Yeah.
Because everything Mark Antony touches turns to dust. That's beside the point. If you're talking about successors to Alexander here, you've got...
Yeah, but Alexander was a military genius, so surely the best successor should be a military genius, and the Seleucids were by far more military...
Well, I think the Egyptians held out against the Romans a lot longer than the Seleucids did.
Yeah, I know, but when you've got such a vast amount of territory...
And a very well-trained army.
Yeah, but the Seleucids had a very well-trained army.
They did, and yet...
They managed to hold on to such vast swathes of territory for quite a long period of time. Like, Seleucus did all the hard work in the Diadochi Wars.
Yeah.
After Alexander died. For Ptolemy. Ptolemy couldn't even relieve Rhodes against Demetrius.
He couldn't.
With his navy.
But if we're looking...
He got his fleet destroyed at Salamis.
Oh, yeah.
He managed to hold Tyre once in a while against the Seleucids. And yes, you might say they won the Syrian War.
I would say 4 of the 6 Syrian wars, the Egyptians won.
Yeah, but the Seleucids have enemies in the north invading, enemies from the west invading, and enemies in the east invading.
In that case. That's their fault. What did...
They have such a
They secured the borders. Yeah. I mean, granted, there's not a lot to guard.
And it doesn't move a lot either. The Ptolemaic Empire, Tyre, just stays in
It went
Tyre.
up to Cyprus for a bit.
Oh, God. Gosh, Alexander must be proud it went to Cyprus. I don't think Alexander the Great would see Ptolemy as the best
militarily, I can see where you're coming from. But you're forgetting the big thing about Alexandria, the Great Library. You've got the bastion of Hellenic culture right there, up to 500,000 scrolls, which you are literally taking off ships, copying, and then giving the copies back. You're getting all the knowledge in one place. Plagiarism, yeah, I'm not denying it. And to other works as well. There was the history, I can't remember who wrote it, but Egyptus, I can't pronounce it. But this was a Hellenic history of Egypt. I mean, from a historian's point of view, absolutely terrible because you're butchering it and putting your own slant on it. But in terms of making the world more Hellenic, or the understanding of the world more Hellenic, that's a massive achievement.
I will, on an intellectual side, I can concede a little bit of ground because the Seleucid Empire was mainly in military chaos and...
Yes.
You had the heartlands of Antioch and Edessa producing intellectual work, but not on the same cultural level. But that's because you're sat in Egypt doing nothing, so you have all the time in the world to do that culture.
But it's stable.
Yeah, but stability's not what Alexander the Great was about, was he? He wanted to go to the ends of the world. And stopped when his men wouldn't go forward from India.
Famously
Seleucus wanted to go to the ends of the world.
And failed.
Went to northern Thrace. Only because he got assassinated by one of Ptolemy's paid-off assassins.
Okay, again, we're going back to the militarisation thing. I admit you've got that.
Okay.
Hellenisation, what else have you got? You've got religion. You've got the Egyptian religion.
Yeah.
Which is, let's face it, very, very hard to understand and it's changed so much over the generations before this. They went in, basically created a new god who sort of had Egyptian and Hellenic characteristics. Serapis. I'd say yes, he would. Yes, he did.
Really?
Yes, because he was going around...
Integrating cultures.
This is integration, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not great if you're a true believer in that form of the religion. Yeah. But if you're saying, here's the new god, Serapis, he's a bit Egyptian, but he looks like a Greek, that's fine. You're also making the Egyptian gods a bit less animalistic, which...
Yeah. But did it work? Because after Ptolemy V, how many Egyptian uprisings were there?
Too many to count. And I think it was under Ptolemy IV, actually. I think it might have been even sooner than that. Yeah. There were many, but he did have the priesthood on side. And this is probably the most wealthy institution on Egypt, aside from the royal court. It's because it survived the Persians, it now came to this, and yeah, providing you sort of paid them their dues and gave them respect, they Hellenised them, essentially. They said, do your own thing, but you follow our rules now. Which the Persians had done already, so they were used to it, but it did work.
But in terms of Hellenisation, I guess it works in terms of integrating religion.
Yeah.
But where does the majority of Hellenistic people stand when it comes to incest? Is that really the best way to integrate Greek culture with Egyptian culture by just full-on swinging to the Pharaoh side?
How many papers I read on incest in preparation for this? How many academic posters I actively looked up to try and get a hand on this?
3?
4. And there were more. Which tells you a couple of things. It tells you, one, that someone at some point sat down and said, I need to write an academic paper dedicated to incest. And then after that, up to 5, maybe more people came along and said, I don't think the first guy did it justice.
So from that, and the amount of historians who have written on the topic, the greatest legacy of the Ptolemaic Kingdom is its history of incest.
You know how I feel after spending so much time on JSTOR looking at this? I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you might be.
Do you think Alexander the Great would really want that as his legacy?
No.
And do you think that captures Alexander the Great's legacy?
No, I don't. And this is where the Hellenisation went weird. Because there is no reason for them to start marrying brothers and sisters to each other. There's a couple of theories, which depending on the paper you read, there was a common belief in Greece that the pharaohs did this on a regular basis. They did, but not quite, it wasn't as common as they thought it was. You've also got the argument that if the pharaohs are the gods, it's a similar thing, then it's Osiris and Iris, brother and sister, king and queen of the Egyptian gods, or something like that, depending on which part of the Egyptian mythology you look into. You have one philosopher compared it to Zeus and Hera, the king and queen of the Greek gods. That's a holy union.
But that's going to be a minority view.
Yes.
On a very
and the philosopher Socrates said as much, and said it in very crude terms, as in you are sticking your little Ptolemy in an unholy hole. And they didn't take that well.
No.
They sealed him in a lead jar, threw him into the sea.
Oof. It's not very good at taking criticism.
No, they weren't. No,
quite similar to
this was Ptolemy the Second. This one, yeah. It's a weird decision. I don't know why they did it. It was a bad move. I'm willing to put that on the record. Bad move all round. Yeah.
Don't do this if you want to start a Successor Kingdom.
In general.
Yeah.
In general.
Let's just put it out.
Just put it out there now. If you learn one thing today,
don't start an incestuous kingdom.
Don't start an incestuous dynasty.
So I just don't think, because of that, Alexander just would not want that.
Well, just because it was more of a family ladder than a family tree. Just that alone.
Yeah, and I think Alexander would have drawn the line at incest when it comes to the harmonisation of his empire.
I like to think so too. I agree. This is a black mark against the Ptolemies.
Definitely.
I will give it. Yes, absolutely. That goes without saying.
Well, let's view them from a political perspective.
Yeah, let's do that now.
If their royal family politically was inbred.
How well did that say you're not going to let this go? But no, I can't blame you.
I just can't. Yeah. It's just such a part of the. It intertwines into politics,
Get
culture,
back into
everything.
politics, come on.
But the Seleucids were just so much better on a political standpoint. They were more effective in creating the Greek style city across the empire.
But look at the ultimate Greek style city, Alexandria.
Yeah, I know, but you've got cities stretching from the Indian mountain, the Himalayas,
Yeah.
all the way across to Edessa. Then you've got Pontus. It's like these political factions became... It was just the embodiment of Greek colonisation.
Yes.
Whereas Alexandria, and yes, it's the high piece of Greek civilization in that period, but they didn't spread it as far as the Seleucids
But I would
did.
say that the Ptolemies were in full control of Egypt, whereas the Seleucids, it wasn't exactly centralised, was it?
And that's the beauty of it. Like, they have this decentralised Greek administration, which is all over the place, and it's city-state independent nations,
Yeah.
just like in Greece. So it reflects your
Which Alexander
Athens,
united.
Yes, but it only united for a little while, and then they start screaming for independence again, and you have to have Lysimachus go over and defeat them.
Yeah, but Alexander didn't want a decentralised Greece. He wanted it under his control.
But he loved the heroes in Greek tales, like reading Troy, about
Granted.
how Menelaus of Sparta goes over, and he loves the stories of the Greeks.
Okay.
So he ends up, through the Seleucid Empire, spreading the Greek factionalism.
That was a stretch of an argument.
Yeah, well, I think Alexander, the legacy of the Seleucid Empire is the political turmoil, and that is how Macedonia was before Philip II. It's how Greece was before Philip II, and it's very much the colonisation of the Middle East in the Greek style
But
of how it is.
But very, very decentralised. Whereas Greece, unfortunately, the only way to do that, in their minds, was to have the Hellenic Greeks as a higher class, essentially. Native Egyptians were definitely on the bottom of the pile there. It was a very stratified society. Obviously, as time went on, there was a bit more integration, but even then, the Egyptians in Ptolemaic Egypt had to take on Greek names and adopt Greek mannerisms as though they'd become cultured, which obviously, speaking as 21st century historians now, bad. That's
And lots
cultural
of
suppression.
rebellions.
True, and lots of rebellions, but that was more in keeping with the style that Alexander had set up during his reign, albeit brief one.
But he was more, in his kind of integration with Persians, he brought high noble Persians up through the ranks, whereas the
did.
Ptolemaics
Suppress them
they
quite a lot.
which is not in Alexander's great political legacy.
It depends on how you look at Alexander's conquests at the end of the day, because at the end of the day you do have a foreigner taking over this part of the world. I'd say that's probably a matter of opinion, depending on how you read the history, to be honest. So, do you want to... Overall, so
what do you think?
on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I will die on this hill, send my remains back to my family, and 1 being I have seen the light, I will convert. What's your stance on the Seleucids over the Ptolemies?
I'd say 7.
7.
A strong 7.
Strong 7.
What is your idea of the Ptolemies over the Seleucids?
I mean, they lose a lot of points for various reasons, but I'm...
Like, you've got to think about it. The Seleucids, they're militarily good. They spread the culture.
No.
You've got the Greek colonisation. You've got the political factionalisation.
But you do have a very stable and the longest reigning of the Successor Kingdoms, which managed to hold on to Alexander's legacy.
But it was a stagnant empire,
They
kingdom.
captured some territory in the Syrian Wars, of which we won 4. May I remind you?
But you only won 4 because they were fighting so much in the north, east and west.
Because they're idiots.
And also, you've got the most defensible position.
My finals... I'll match you on 7.
You've matched me on 7.
I'll match you on 7, which means that we have solved nothing.
And it's a draw.
It's a draw. We'll take this outside, finish this later.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, why not?
Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.
Yeah, what do you think? We'll put up a poll, if we can, on YouTube after this, and see if you can solve this one for us. That's it.
Until next time.
Bye.